Good evening, everybody. Check Hook here, and following up on a few videos that I did regarding this election. So, there's a few other things that kind of came out, and I guess you could say now that it's Monday, I think things are going to start trickling in. I'm not sure when kind of the big reveal is. It's kind of like fireworks at this point where you're at the beginning of the show you're going to get some fireworks and then at the end you get this like huge kind of finale, and I think that's what we're heading towards. But uh, so Dr. Shiva basically posted another video. I think what happened was a lot of people were trying to say, oh well, you're not wrong, you're not doing it right, your math is off and things like that. So he posted another video, and I took this screen grab because I just kind of thought this was the important screen grab. So if you look here, um, you could see that when he plots the Biden stuff, he's getting, kind of, here's the zero line down here. So he's doing 20% in highly, he's gaining 20% in highly Republican precincts. And when you come down to Trump, and here's the zero line here, he's losing 20% in highly Republican precincts. So you can kind of get the idea where this graph is kind of going, and just expanding on, I guess, what he did before. And I think it's mostly just trying to, um, I guess you could say, prove the naysayers wrong. And, you're going to get a lot of this in math and science where you get a guy that's a mathematician, and he's doing a formula, and another one says no, you're doing it wrong, or so. I think you're going to get that kind of back and forth. But I think ultimately what you could take away from this is, and I think we went over when we went over Benford's law. Let's see if I can. How do I get back to where I need to be? And close this one out. Here we go. Let's see. Is this the one that I wanted to show? Yeah. So again, here's Benford's law, and then you could see where ultimately where Biden ends up in the election. And again, this is the method that they used to detect what was going on with Enron. So again, um, it's not proving anything. It's just basically showing you where to look and that the data is flawed somewhere. Now, here's another interesting thing, and I think I want to go to this because this is kind of something that needs to happen in this country. So, first and foremost, the inputs and outputs to our voting system are unverifiable. And you have a country with 300, what, 30, 40 million people in it. Some shouldn't be voting. So your whatever amount of the illegals are should not be voting at all. And if you ask me, they shouldn't be getting driver's licenses or anything like that. They should be kicked out. And there is a visa program in place for temp workers, and that's for farm and stuff like that. So there is a program in place for these people already, and it's a legal program. They can come here, they can work, and then they make their money and they can go back. And what the 11 or 12 million, it might be more, it might be less, I'm not sure, illegals are doing here is just, it's, I mean, you're breaking the law. And individuals that have come over here the right way, um, really, that's the part, because they're the ones that they pay for the lawyers. I mean, I've went through this process in terms of having somebody come over to the U.S., and I've worked with companies that did this. I worked with a couple of IT companies, and for the visas and stuff, and the money and time that it takes to get somebody over here on a visa or a green card, it costs just in the paperwork, just filing the stuff is well over $1,000, and that doesn't include the doctor's appointment stuff that you have to go through, and that doesn't include what the lawyer charges. So the lawyer fee is probably the biggest fee, because we all know lawyers aren't cheap. So you can kind of imagine what a lawyer is going to cost to kind of do that. So that right there is kind of an issue. But let's go into kind of things that we really need, and I think you could see this first. Uh, Voter registration card. I'm not sure why this is a problem. I cannot figure out for the life of me, if you can get a driver's license, why can't you get a voter registration card? And the cool thing is, with having like a voter ID, is you can have a chip, so it can only be used by, it's a chip like, your credit card, so you can only use it, you know uh, for yourself, and it has your, would have a picture on it, so you can, put a face to the ID. If you walk into a liquor store and you want to buy alcohol, they're going to card you, especially if you're a younger person. You go to buy cigarettes, they're going to card you. Um, you want to go gamble? Okay, so you go to the casino, you walk in, they're going to card you. So you can do all these things and they card you, but voting, which is something that really is only reserved for citizens, they don't look for your ID, which is absolutely ridiculous. So voter registration card, open source software. Can't stress this enough. Open source software. So it's just everything's traceable. You can uh it just makes sense. Open source software. Hand marked paper ballots. Again, if we're gonna do paper, just makes sense. Save ballot images pursuant to why the ballots aren't scanned and stored is beyond me. With paper ballots, once they're put into the machine, they can throw them out and that's it. They should be scanned and saved. Publish ballot images publicly. Allows for public recount. Works for me. Automatic audits. Audit every election. I think that's also a good idea too. Obviously, if it's a blowout, maybe not, but if you're winning 70-30 or something, publish precinct level data, poll tapes on election night, that works too. But I think the first and foremost is voter ID, and I'm not sure why we still do not have that. So that's pretty much this. I think this would solve a lot of the problems with the integrity. Now, here's the interesting thing of the night. Um, so according to what this whole Scytl, uh, the seized Scytl data, which this is the server that was seized by the army, supposedly. Now, again, I don't think that I don't think it, this is kind of hard to believe, because I can't imagine California being red. I would imagine New York being red before California would be red, just because of New York State is traditionally red. Staten Island and Long Island are traditionally red. It's basically New York City. And I would kind of think New Jersey too would kind of be red before California. So I don't know if this uh, map here that they're showing, it really seems weird, because there's the Northrop, some, I forget what the poll was, but the guy, it was uh I think it was in March they came out with this, and they were right in like the 24 out of 26 elections, and they had Trump at 362 where New York was red. So I don't know, but according to this server that was seized by the U.S. Army, shows Trump had 410 electoral votes on election night. Now, I don't know exactly what that means by election night. I don't know what again, this take this with a grain of salt because I can't fathom for the life of me that not only is California red, but it's dark red. Now, if this was light blue, then I could probably say okay because Virginia was pretty close. Trump was up in Virginia when I think when I went to bed he was up in Virginia. And they had called it for Biden, but he was up in Virginia and he was up a lot. So this just it's a little again, take it with a grain of salt. I just don't buy this map really. I just don't buy it. But this is what allegedly this server that was seized by the U.S. Army shows that Trump had 410 electoral votes on election night. Things are kind of flying fast and furious. So a few of the things I heard today. One, there were I think hundred. I don't know if it was hundreds or a lot of people that I guess had worked for Dominion and had this on their resume on LinkedIn had scrubbed it. So I think people, whoever, if this is again, take this with a grain of salt. This is just stuff that I'm kind of hearing, but allegedly, people that worked for Dominion had scrubbed their LinkedIn data. They don't want to be associated with that. Makes sense because honestly, if I worked for Dominion in any capacity, I would be, regard regardless if I knew what was going on in the background or not. Because I worked for an IT company. So let's say, for example, I worked for an IT company, a software company, and if they were, well, let me kind of go back. I actually worked. Going back, I worked for a electronic systems company. It was for like electronic warfare systems. Like I guess it was like computer systems for tanks and all that. They got fined when I was working there as a contractor. They got fined like $10 million because I don't know if they sold something or they something with the Chinese. I remember they brought us into this room, and I mean, here's somebody like I've only been working there for a month. I don't even know if I was there a month, and they bring everybody in this room, and I'm not a employee or I'm just a contractor, and they the first thing they said was that they had gotten fined because I don't know if they sold. I think they said they sold secrets or something to the Chinese government. So I mean, imagine being somebody that works for Dominion and this stuff is kind of flying around hot and heavy, and you worked there, say 3 years ago, and you have it on your resume because you don't know any different, and you might have been a new employee, you might have worked there for a few months, and you don't know what the hell is going on in the background, and the next thing you know, this is kind of flying. I would probably remove that information too. I wouldn't want to be associated with that because the last thing you want are the feds knocking at your door asking if you knew anything. So there's that. Um, so basically, that's kind of another story that's going around. Um, Something else that is kind of popping up is, and I'll show it to you here. Now, I don't know how much this has to do with anything, but Fulton County discovered a reporting error that had taken Joe Biden's lead in Georgia from 4,000 votes to 7,000 votes. So so they somehow they gave him 3,000 votes or something like that. I don't know exactly what's going on here. So I have no idea what this is about. So maybe he was up 4,000, so there was a reporting error that put him up to 7,000. I don't know. So again, another kind of issue uh, going on there. So that's pretty much. I mean, I know Trump's lawyer. She has been at it and from what I understand now, supposedly there's direct links to Biden now through this whole Dominion Scytl Smartmatic. You know, I got to find out how that all correlates. I really haven't. I've been just looking at bits and pieces, so I haven't really, uh, you know, gotten something that shows the chain of command. I know just certain bits and pieces, so I'll try and kind of dig that up and maybe have something for tomorrow. But yeah, I don't. One of the things, it's funny because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Trump is losing all these lawsuits." So basically, a lot of these lawsuits that have come, I guess, have come not from the Trump campaign, but I think they're like individuals, like people that are filing lawsuits as well. So somebody that might have seen something wonky or whatever, I think that's kind of what's going on. That's why they keep saying, "Oh, Trump's losing this lawsuit," and someone withdrew a lawsuit. It's not Trump's legal team; it's actually just some individual that's doing that. And Trump, I guess you could say another thing was that Trump has, you could say, called the banners. Trump has called the banners, folks. So what happened was he from my understanding he called back all the lawyers to the White House. Now, the post that I read showed that there is a huge lawsuit imminent. Now, I believe this is the Dominion shit, and just from what the lawyer's been saying, Trump's lawyer, I can't think of her name right off the top of my head, but Aubrey something. Um, Information is coming through like a fire hose. It's just there's so much stuff coming in now, and from my understanding, there are whistleblowers coming forward that were at Dominion. So I honestly don't know what to make of all this. Um, it's really it's this is kind of we're really in uncharted waters here because at least in the only thing you could really compare it to is Bush Gore, where there was this glitch, but it was only in Florida. Now you're talking about a voting system that, from what people say, is vulnerable, not only vulnerable to backdoors and this, all that kind of stuff, but is in of itself easy to manipulate the data. Now, there was another post that somebody said that they were that Trump's gonna, he's winning or something, and then somebody posted that worked at, I don't know if it worked at Dominion or something. They posted that he's not gonna win. I'm gonna make sure of that. So, you know, there's too many what ifs and too many just random things kind of going on that are really not verifiable. And this could be a system wide. I mean, this can be a couple of things. So, one, this could be a system wide thing. This is what this does. I mean, and it's very manipulated, and anyone can do it, and everybody's in cahoots, and everyone's doing it. The other thing is that you could have just a handful of people, a couple of people that are just very anti-Trump people, some rogue people that went rogue that did this. So it could be very few. It could be nothing at all. This could be a whole bunch of just crap that's going on, and really it's a whole big nothing burger. Now, I don't think it's that, because I think if it was that, you wouldn't have these discrepancies in data like I was telling you with, like, if I show you this with the Benford's law. Can I? Why? I got to open this with another program, I think, so I can zoom in, right? I don't have, I'm not really like prepped for all this crap, so I'm just at this point making do with what I got. 200%? No. Let's go down to 150. Nope. Let's go to 100. Okay. So again, this Benford's Law stuff that they're showing, like here's Biden's weird, wonky, crazy Benford's Law in Philadelphia compared to Trump, which conforms, and then you got Biden's, which is it goes from a lower first digit. Number two is it just doesn't make sense the way it goes, and I just you know I don't. Something's obviously going on, but again, I just don't know, and I don't think anybody really has enough information. And the fact that nobody's really saying anything, like Trump's lawyers basically saying, "Yeah, we got all this information. It's over. It connects to Joe Biden. This, that, the other thing." I don't know how true that is. I don't know if they're trying to see if the Biden team uh, maybe they're trying to bait him into something. I just don't know what's going on. Now, it's the 16th today. The election was on the 3rd. So we're almost tomorrow will be 2 weeks since the election. And I obviously if there it's something like this, you can't prove it in a week. You can't prove it in 2 weeks. I mean, honestly, this is something that's going to take time. And I don't know if they're going to push out these electoral, that where they have to kind of choose and all that. I don't know if they're going to push that out or not. I don't know if they're going to go with it. But we're getting pretty close to this, and next week is Thanksgiving. So I mean, I don't know if people are going to be like. I got to assume they're going to have to work through this because I mean, this is the election after all. Uh, Twitter, YouTube, all the social media have all these little marks that anytime you post a video about an election or fraud or anything, the little asterisk that this claim has been disputed. There was a letter, I think, from, I don't know if it was from Congress, basically stripping Biden of his office of the president, his president elect status. So there was actually a letter about that I saw that was kind of stripping him of that. So something tells me that it it's hard to really say what's going on because I'll be honest with you, what a lot of this hinges on is this: and alleged server seized by U.S. Army. Did they actually seize that? There's very little news, and I've been kind of lurking around, and there really is not much on that. So they're either keeping it really fucking secret or nothing happened. And there's still all these lawsuits. So if you look at the map, some the I don't know if I don't know which one has it like the way, but it basically shows Trump is up like 232 to something, and it has Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and I don't know if Nevada's on there as in dispute. Some are recounts and some are lawsuits. Now, here is the $150 gazillion question. Let's say they come out, Trump's team comes out, and they have proof of what's going on. They have proof, they have witnesses, and they have kind of a step by step on how it was done. Let's say that's all verified and that's true, that this is what happened did happen. Let's say what we're looking at is true, that Trump was up by 410 to 128 on election night. Let's say this is completely true based on this data that was coming in originally before it was manipulated. Okay. What happens? What happens? Because there's so many things that would come into play. Do you, if they know which states, do you run it back? Do you disqualify some votes? Does Trump get it because it was if it was true and it was tied to Biden and he cheated? Does he get those states, all these states by default, like Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Nevada, Arizona? Does he get all of these by default? Does the Supreme Court step in? What the hell goes on? I have no idea. I'm not a lawyer, and I don't even know if the lawyers know. Because again, we're really in uncharted waters, folks. This is something that I think a lot of people had to see this coming with 2020 and all the bullshit that's been going on. I think people had to see this coming, and I surely did. I knew that it wasn't going to be a straight Trump win or a straight Biden win on election night, because it wasn't. Trump was up, and he was up by a lot on election night. So if you look again, uh, on election night, this is basically when I went to bed. Ah, damn, I got to open up under. Can I make? I'd have to. Let's make this a little bigger. So Trump was up in Pennsylvania by 700,000. He was up in Georgia by 300, a little over 300,000. He was up in Michigan by 300,000. He was up in, well, that's Michigan again. It's just a different time. He was up in North Carolina, which he ended up winning, but he was up in North Carolina, uh, 80,000? 80,000? And it was pretty almost close, 94%. And he was up in Wisconsin by 130,000. That's that Wisconsin when it flipped, when 130,000 votes came in. I mean, that's like saying you're watching a basketball game, and let's say you're watching the Bulls and Lakers, and the Bulls are up, I don't know, say 20-10, and the Lakers score 100 points, and the Bulls score nothing. You know how improbable that is? Unless they were all sitting on the floor, that would be impossible. So that's kind of the probabilities. I mean, 130,000 straight votes came in, and not one for Trump, not one for JoJo, not one for a write-in, nothing. Yeah, something's a little wonky there. I think they overplayed their hand here. To be honest, it's kind of like they had a plan, but one hand didn't know what the other one was doing, and they just, you know, they did it. So it's kind of like if you're in a casino and you're, say you're cheating the poker table, and you just go a little too far, and it makes it way too obvious that you're counting cards. Or that's basically what happened. I think they just overplayed their hand here. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I really have no flipping idea what's going to happen. It's definitely going to be pretty interesting though, for the next, at least for this week, because I think this week you're probably going to get, as this week and next week goes on, I think you're going to get more and more stuff trickling in. Don't forget, today was only Monday, and we got a pretty good treasure trove of stuff already of what's going on. And I think you have a lot of different people looking at this. It's going to be pretty interesting to see where it goes. And again, I think I just kind of want to stress, and I'm going to open this one up. I got to stress this because Florida is a very good indicator. Because don't forget, Florida's got a good, probably one of the biggest mix of people in the U.S. I can't. I mean, I can't really think of other places now. As a city, New York City, ultimately, the turnout, the Democrat turnout was actually lower in the major cities like Chicago and New York. So when you look at something like that, and then you look at something like Florida, where Trump basically won by over what 3.5%, where he barely squeaked by in 2016. It's a very good indicator of where this election should have went. And there was a graph, not a graph, but a table of bellwethers where basically these areas that typically when they vote a certain way predict the outcome of the election, and I think Trump won all of those except for like two or three. So he should have technically based even on the bellwethers. So you have a couple of weird things here. So the bellwethers thing is one where Trump won those. That's kind of like the predictor. The other thing is the Benford's law. Obviously, there was something a little wonky there. You have the fact that when you win Florida, Ohio, and North Carolina, I don't think anyone's lost an election when you won those three. So again, another indicator that is just completely blown out by the bullshit that's going on. And I honestly, I think the Dems overplayed their hand. I think they didn't know, the one hand didn't know what the other hand was doing. And I think you did have a couple of rogue actors that were, messing around. And this is where we're at. This is where we are at, folks. And it's like I said, it's going to be pretty damn interesting um, for the next week or two. Now, I'm not, again, not a lawyer. I'm not somebody that's involved in this kind of stuff, so I don't know how long it takes to put a case. I don't know if the army did seize all this information, how long it takes to look at it and figure out what happened. So we'll see what happens. More to come tomorrow. I think that's pretty much it for tonight. Hopefully, we'll get a little more information tomorrow, and we'll be back at you with some more graphs, some more tables, some more information. I'm going to watch uh, Dr. Shiva's second video, see what that comes up with. I'm gonna kind of go and find some more of this information, like the bellwethers and everything. But as more information comes in, I'll kind of copy what I think is important stuff to look at. And as we hear more, we'll see what happens. But I'll kind of bring a daily update. And then hopefully I can get back to streaming some PlayStation. So once this is kind of over, I'll be streaming things like Dark Souls and maybe some Cold War. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But that's kind of my plan. But I'd like to cover the election stuff first because I think this is pretty important, more important than gaming at this point, and I kind of want to put that information out there. Hopefully, this kind of gets resolved soon and we figure out what's going on. But as we hear more, I'll hopefully have some more information, and we'll go from there. So talk to you later. Peace.